Hello, folks. Pastor Rocky Branch. Hope you're doing great today. You know, in the book of Philippians, we have so much good information in this one little book. In fact, the Apostle Paul, as he wrote to this church at Philippi, had such great love for this church. It's such a wonderful letter, such a great church letter. Now, you can read this letter and find out so many things that the local church is supposed to be doing. He encourages, he challenges, he commissions, he does so many great things in this church at Philippi. In fact, it was a very special church to him, one of his most favorite, I suppose. If he could have one of those, this certainly would have been one of them. He says to us in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 4, "Rejoice in the Lord, and again I say rejoice." Now, when Paul says rejoice always, and again I say rejoice, what he's saying to us is there's a choice to rejoice. Now, you have that choice. Now, no matter what comes into your life, no matter what you're dealing with, let me tell you something. Heaven already knew about it. Nothing that's happened to you is a surprise by God. He already knew. He already has a solution. He already has it worked out. No matter what you are going through, no matter what you are facing, no matter what you are challenged by, no matter, it can be anything. You say, no, hold on. What about accidents? Well, what about them? You say, well, they're accidents to you. Yes, but not to God. God knows everything. He is everywhere. He has all power. One of the attributes of God that we love so much is he's never taken by surprise. You see, we have a world that we live in that's a tangible world, that we reach out and touch things, and we talk about things, and we relate to things, and we deal with things here, and then we try to spread information. When something happens, we first thing we do, we get on the phone and we say, "Oh, did you know? Did you hear?" Well, that's because we're trying to inform or help or encourage or whatever, but God already knows. He already knows everything. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through, good or bad, as far as what you consider it to be, God already knows about it. And I need to understand that rejoicing is a choice. I choose to deal with the issues that I'm confronted with by the grace of God. I mean, that's a choice that I have to make. I get information I like or I get information I don't like. It's not the information primarily, it's how I deal with it. And that's very valuable to understand. It's what I do with what I receive. It's very necessary to understand that these things that you and I get are very valuable to display the grace of God to other people. I mean, there's people watching you, there's people seeing you, there's people that know what you go through, and very candidly, they're waiting for a right reaction because they themselves need an example to follow. And you, well, could be that example. You see, the choice to rejoice is a mindset to understand that God knows the best for you. And even though accidents happen and they're tragic, I've been involved in many of them and having to talk to people about them. And they're very life changing. And whether it's a death of a child, a death of a spouse, a family member, mom, dad, whatever, friend, neighbor, it's devastating, but God still has the knowledge and still has the answer and still will help you through this situation if you make that choice to let God have his way and accept God's divine plan, and God will work through tragedy or triumph to give the testimony that's necessary to the lost community or to the struggling Christian that his way is the right way. Now, these are challenging times, of course, for all of us in many different ways, but God is never wrong, and I need to stick with him. You say, well, hey, people do wrong things all the time. I agree. I raise my hand and say, yes, that's true. But God still works in that lack of obedience in others for your glory and your benefit and your help in him. You see, your life presents others with a display of who God is because they don't see Jesus walking around. God's in heaven and the Holy Spirit's in you, so you are the example. So the glory of God often is revealed in us, according to what Paul said. And I need to understand that rejoicing is absolutely a choice, and I need to make my mind up. I need to make my mind up that God knows what's going on and that God's going to work out. Even when things don't go well and they're tragic and they're challenging or whatever they may be, I need to understand that God is going to do the absolute best thing And I can rejoice about that. Oh, I don't. No, I'm not talking about being happy and laughing about it, because rejoicing and happy are two different things entirely. But I need to have that inner peace to know that God's going to make a way where there seems to be no way. So whatever comes your way, remember, it didn't surprise heaven. Heaven did not have an emergency board meeting and say, "Did you know?" Nope, doesn't happen. God already knew. And God already has the answer to your solution or to your problem. The solution is already available if you will trust in Him. And listen, when you feel so rattled that you're about to come apart, just remember that God has already provided you what you need. So trust and obey. There's no other way to be happy in Jesus than to trust and obey. Rejoice is a choice. Well, and if you do that, God will bless you for it. God bless you. We love you, and goodbye.